Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Good afternoon. Let's do some business. We're doing it live right here, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons. We get right down to business with the news-driven hour right after Ben Shapiro and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. Mottek On Money, live on the air on 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at KBC.com, and the on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, KBC.com, Apple, iTunes, YouTube, all of your favorite podcast platforms. Stocks hitting session highs today, and the Dow once again, in fact, joined by the S&P 500, ending the day at record highs. Investors appear to be shrugging off President-elect Trump's pledge to impose tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. The notes from the Fed's last big meeting popped up today, pointing to a more gradual pace of interest rate cuts. The other big news today, a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hezbollah, also helping the tone of trading late in the day. The big news in the Middle East is that Israel has approved a U.S.-brokered ceasefire agreement with Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon, setting the stage for an end to the nearly 14 months of fighting linked to the ongoing war in the Gaza Strip, which began October 7, 2023, when Hamas terrorists attacked Israel. I'll discuss the latest in the Middle East this afternoon live with Richard Sandler, longtime chair of the Board of Trustees of the Jewish Federations of North America and former chair of the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles, executive vice president of the Milken Family Foundation, prominent L.A. attorney and author of the book Witness to a Prosecution, The Myth of Michael Milken. He'll be joining us live later this hour. The notes from the last big Fed meeting, by the way, giving little way in terms of the coming December meeting. We're watching, speculating what's going to happen there. We'll talk more about that coming up here shortly. Shares of exchange-traded funds that invest stocks in Canada, Mexico, and China moving lower today after President-elect Trump announced over social media his plans to quickly impose new tariffs on those countries when he gets to the White House in January. The Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge is likely to show a sharper increase in prices for the month of October for the second month in a row, adding to uncertainty about how much the Fed will reduce borrowing costs. A new reading on that will be coming out tomorrow morning. At their last meeting in early November, the Fed officials debated how quickly to lower rates in light of fresh evidence that showed inflation remained elevated and the economy was stronger than expected based on the numbers they're looking at. Digital gold has taken a hit this week, with Bitcoin slipping from close to $100,000 back to around $91K right now. Gold, meanwhile, is on the rise, analog gold, that is. Both gold and silver have seen big gains this year. I'll be discussing gold and silver later this hour live with Joe Morgan at United Gold Group, based here in Southern California. Consumer confidence rising to a 16-month high in the latest reading. Americans growing more optimistic about the new year with the rising stock prices, with the Dow and S&P 500 at record highs today, slowing inflation and a robust jobs market. The index of consumer confidence ticking higher in November, according to the Conference Board, now at the highest reading we've seen since the middle of 2023. Spectacular start to the holiday season at the Grove last night in Los Angeles, and retailers are in focus as we head into the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, Black Friday, and weekend shopping. Shares of Kohl's, meanwhile, tumbling toward a more than 4-year low today, after the department store chain reported quarterly earnings news that missed expectations across the board. Kohl's shares down about 17% today. Looks like their chief executive is stepping down effective January 15th. Also, Best Buy making news. That stock was down today by about 5% after the retailer's third-quarter sales and earnings came in below analyst expectations. Joining us live now on Your Money, the markets, the economy, the whole works now, investment expert and money manager Gabriel Wisdom, managing director at American Money Management and author of Wisdom on Value Investing. Gabriel Wisdom, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
My pleasure, Frank. You know, it's generally the season for higher stock markets, and we saw that today. The Standard & Poor's 500's median gain in the last week of November, and this dates back since 1945, the returns are nearly twice the average for all the other one-week periods. Since 1945, there's a lot of seasonality right now. What's causing it? Well, it's been a busy week for earnings and interest rate outlooks. We have notes from the Federal Reserve from November 6 and 7, as you mentioned. There is some concern that President-elect Trump's tariffs will be inflationary, but at the same time, we see a very strong dollar. We see a lot of capital flow, and we see especially brisk bond buying, U.S. bonds, by foreign interests. So that's very positive. Money's coming into the United States.
And the dollar firming in all of this versus other currencies. Nice time to take a trip to Europe, where the dollar's going a lot further than it used to, right? What about the dollar in all of this, which normally strong dollar is not such great news for the stock market because it makes our stuff more expensive overseas?
Well, that's right. But if the tariff, plan works, then it'll be a net positive. The president-elect wrote that these tariffs that he's proposing, that he plans to impose on Mexico and Canada and additional tariffs in China will remain in effect, he wrote, until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country. And Trump also wrote that both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to easily solve this long simmering problem. I mean, maybe it'll work, but tariffs do generate some additional revenue. But at the same time, we saw in the open market that retailers in particular are worried about, they're bracing for the potential impacts of higher production costs, and automatic manufacturers as well were weak today. General Motors fell substantially, Stellantis, we saw Ford down, even the foreign automakers like Volkswagen, Mercedes, BMW, they were all down on concerns about higher costs through tariffs.
Interestingly, despite the stronger dollar, gold and silver on the rise today. Gold hovering at around $2,633. Silver just below $31 an ounce. It's been interesting to see the rise in the precious metals just at a time where we're told inflation is easing. Of course, people have been going to precious metals as an inflation hedge for centuries, and also the nervousness around the world also elevating a precious metal. Certainly, what are your thoughts about precious metals here at these levels?
Well, gold in particular, Frank, has a lot of staying power because individuals worldwide hold large quantities of gold. These are family treasures. We're talking about jewelry made from gold. The World Gold Council has estimated that this gold that's tucked away amounts to about 45% of the available gold. So I do like it, and the market likes it too. But if silver is doing even better because of the additional industrial applications due to the AI and technology boom, silver is really having a great year. It's up some 42% so far.
All right, I had AI on my bingo card this afternoon. So NVIDIA, the magnificent one, which has propelled this rally largely up today, 90 cents higher to 136.92. In a day we've seen both the Dow and the S&P 500 hit record highs. NVIDIA part of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now, what about the magnificent one here?
Well, Frank, NVIDIA now is the most valuable stock on the Dow Jones averages. So we do watch it more closely because as it moves up or down, it affects the broad index of 30 stocks. But there is an AI multiplier effect. For every dollar that's spent on these chips, there's about $19 in additional revenue in the economy. For example, there are a number of new artificial intelligence apps. And this isn't just ChatGPT. Microsoft has Edge. There's Photomath. There's Nova. Of course, Bing, and there are a number of other names. And some of these AI applications are finding broad adoption. There's two new apps that, like LooksMax is one. There's another one I believe is called UMax. What it does is it takes your photo and it gives you tips on how to become more attractive. And it generates pictures of what you could look like if you took the AI advice from the app. So there's lots of these new applications coming out, and video obviously is making the chips.
Very interesting. Well, thanks for bringing that to our attention. We'll have to check that one out. That's now that you mentioned it. So good to know. We get a lot of practical advice here on Mottek On Money on 790 KABC. On the air live with investment expert and money manager Gabriel Wisdom. And let's see, what about Bitcoin? I know it's probably not one of your favorite subjects, but hard to ignore the run up recently to nearly 100,000, and now it's pulled back to 91K, and all the various stocks and ETFs now connected to Bitcoin. What are your thoughts about the latest moves here in the crypto world?
Well, I would say that I'm a late adopter to Bitcoin and crypto. I just didn't believe, and I still don't consider that Bitcoin or any crypto is a type of currency. It's certainly a commodity, but this is a hard sector to value. There's some 10,000 different, I guess you'd call them e-currencies or cryptos. So the cryptocurrency market is difficult. It's broad, but Bitcoin is clear leader. If you were to equate the valuation of Bitcoin to gold, then Bitcoin should be substantially higher. And mining continues to be more and more difficult. I understand that every 4 years the rewards for validating the blockchain transactions are halved, and then there's the energy costs that make mining uneconomical, basically, regardless of Bitcoin's market price. So, supply and demand, I wouldn't be surprised to see it go higher.
Right, and it's a reminder that it goes up as well as down, as we've seen this week. So it does gyrate, and it's certainly very volatile. Looks like Warren Buffett giving away more of his billions. So I know you follow Warren Buffett very, very closely. That was a pretty significant announcement recently.
Yes, well, he's in his 90s now, and he's thinking about the hereafter. I wonder if once in a while he shows up and he wonders, what am I hereafter? Because people get to be a little, he's a thinker. I have met Mr. Buffett, and he's certainly somebody to reckon with. I've been talking to Mr. Buffett, and he simply turns and walks away because his attention goes elsewhere. And I've seen this happen with other people in the room. It's amazing how phenomenally well his Apple pick really did. Some 10 times his money since 2016, since Buffett first started buying Apple in the first quarter of 2016. So, we follow what he buys. He's been still buying oil and gas. He's buying traditional retailers when they go on sale, but he's got a large cash hoard, and I think he's expecting some kind of a difficult market in the first term of the new presidential administration, because that's typically what occurs.
All right, Apple, speaking of Apple, higher today by a couple of dollars at $235 and change. What about Apple here?
Well, it's a wonderful company with great economics, certainly has a very bright future. It has lagged on the AI scale. They're playing catch up, but once you own an Apple iPhone, it's hard to switch. So, and they've got plenty of capital. They could raise the double. They could triple the dividend payout to investors, and they'd still have many billions of dollars in free cash flow. So I like it, especially if it gets cheaper.
All right. Any other specific places where you are putting money now and/or taking it off the table?
Frank, Oxford Economics is now estimating that the weight loss drug industry is going to be worth about $140 billion annually in the next few years because of the rising rates of obesity and the other weight-related health conditions. And then we heard that the Biden administration wants to seek coverage for these weight loss drugs under Medicare and Medicaid. That'll add to the fiscal deficit in the near term, but some of this might be recovered in the long term with a healthier population. It increases the labor force participation. There might be jobs gained because there'll be new GLP-1 or semaglutide, manufacturing operations here in the United States. Certainly, I like an exchange-traded fund. I would say I haven't bought it yet, but I'm looking, called Round Hill Exchange-Traded Fund. It's a weight loss portfolio. It includes Lilly, Novo Nordisk, AstraZeneca, Amgen, and some of the others. So that's what I'm looking at.
All right, and we're heading into the holiday shopping season here now, coming up on Thanksgiving holiday weekend, Black Friday, and all the deals we'll be hearing about, Cyber Monday and Giving Tuesday, by the way. That's a pretty significant and important event as well. Let me ask you about the retail landscape here. Looks like retailers are expecting an up season this year, given the stock market at record highs, Bitcoin at or near record highs here. What are your thoughts about the retailers as we head into the shopping season?
Well, this would be the time to own them, and I sure hope we have a robust retail season here. I know that the big ones like Walmart and Lowe's and Target, as I say, they're concerned about the potential impacts on production costs via tariffs, but at the same time, consumers have lots of money to spend, and 'tis the season. So, if you're going to be a buyer here, I think it'd be a nice ride.
All right. Looks like the high end is still doing well, right? Whereas these dollar stores, in fact, 99 cents only stores went out of business this year, and some of those names are still struggling. Given the choice between high end or middle or low end, where would you be placing your bets at this time?
I think it would be the middle end. The middle market is always really great around the holiday season. The rich already have all the stuff they want. And if you go to a party with a lot of affluent people, they said, bring no gifts, no gifts. That's not true with everybody else. So the middle market would be my preference.
All right, what about Macy's? They had that big news this week that an employee hit up to $154 million in expenses, and they had to delay their earnings report. What about Macy's here?
Well, that's just outright fraud, and that's an outlier, Frank. I was very surprised to see that the board and the auditors failed to catch this. It's hard to fathom.
Gabriel, thank you very much for joining us live here. We wish you and everyone there a wonderful Thanksgiving and holiday season. Hopefully, we'll speak to you again very, very soon. That is Gabriel Wisdom with American Money Management, based here in Southern California, also author of Wisdom on Value Investing. Gabriel, thank you very much for joining us here this afternoon.
Thank you, Frank.
Out to the freeways now on 790 KABC. Frank Mottek here. Did you know that for more than 10,000 years, gold has been the greatest store of value and considered a safe haven asset to preserve your wealth? Now, with the U.S. debt at more than 35 and maybe even 36 or $37 trillion and climbing, not to mention the Biden administration still getting us involved in costly wars, developing the digital dollar, central bank, digital currency, and inflation spiraling, it's more critical now than ever before to safeguard your assets, like your cash savings and retirement accounts, with physical gold. Opening a gold IRA is one of the best ways to secure your wealth and create a stable financial future. Stop worrying about your retirement and the market and cash savings in the bank. Feel confident, prepared, and in control with physical gold and yes, silver. Give Joe Morgan a call now at 1-800-753-8534. Mention Frank Mottek, and you can get up to $1,000 worth of silver with a qualifying purchase. Call now 1-800-753-8534 or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com. Mottek On Money continues, 790 KABC. Good afternoon. The Dow and S&P 500 powering up to record highs today. The Dow up 124 points, settling at 44,860. The S&P 500 of 34 at 6,022, and the Nasdaq gained 121 points to 19,176. The yield on the 10-year note is back up there at 4.31%. Price of oil up 9 cents here at the moment at $68.86 a barrel. We see the price of gold moving higher, up $9.50 at the moment at $2,630.80 an ounce, and silver is up 9 cents at $30.91 an ounce. Taking a look at the Apple shares, up more than $2 today, $235.06. In the crypto world, we see at the moment, let's bring up Bitcoin here. Bitcoin has taken a hit this week, folks. Got close to 100,000. Right now at 92,215, up 1,200 on the day. Ethereum is up nearly 5 at 3,329. Doge at the moment at 39 cents. Checking some of the Bitcoin ETFs, IBIT down more than 2 today at 51.70, and BITO down $1.08 at 24.40. And now the latest news for you here on 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues here in 790 KABC. Financial markets had a positive reaction today to the big news in the Middle East. Oil prices pulling back, stock prices hitting record highs. The news today that Israel has approved a U.S. brokered ceasefire agreement with Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon, setting the stage for an end to nearly 14 months of fighting linked to the ongoing war in the Gaza Strip, which began October 7, 2023, when Hamas terrorists attacked Israel. Let's bring in Richard Sandler now, longtime chair of the board of the trustees of the Jewish Federations of North America and former chair of the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles, executive vice president of the Milken Family Foundation, prominent Los Angeles attorney, and author of the book Witness to a Prosecution, The Myth of Michael Milken. Richard Sandler, thank you very much for coming to the line here this afternoon.
Thank you, Frank. It's always nice talking with you.
Wonderful to have you with us here. Your reaction, first of all, to the big news today on this deal between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Well, my reaction is what I hope most people's reaction is, that hopeful, a positive reaction, that hopeful it is a first step in bringing peace to a region and release of hostages.
And, of course, the hostage crisis continues as Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who is going to become the UN ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, reminds everyone on social media on a daily basis. She will be the U.S. ambassador to the UN. What are the chances these hostages will be released by the time President Trump retakes the White House?
That's hard to say, because the Hamas, which has taken the hostages and holds the hostages, does not appear to have any interest in releasing them. But, I am hopeful that pressures will be brought, especially now that this first step is taken with respect to the war in Lebanon, and that progress can be made with respect to what's happening in Gaza, for the benefit of the Israeli people, for the benefit of the Palestinian people, and certainly for the families of those hostages who are all innocent. So let's not forget who those hostages are. They were not combatants. They were not members of the army. They were innocent people who were taken from their homes, some of which were elderly and some of which are very small children.
And some of them are also Americans.
No question about it, as there are members of other countries that are also been held all this time. So it's time for humanity to step up and for the hostages to be released. And hopefully what happened today is a first step.
It's been a while since we've chatted behind live microphones, and certainly now with the election of President Trump set to take office on January 20th, how would you assess what's ahead under the Trump administration as it relates to Israel and the Middle East?
Well, I'm always an optimist. I think that President Trump, when he was president before, made a lot of progress in that part of the world. I think the Abraham Accords was one of the great foreign policy steps that has been taken for peace, probably in decades. So I'm very, very hopeful. I think as Americans, we're always hopeful that when the election is over, we come and support the president. And I'm very supportive of President Trump and very hopeful for what he'll be able to accomplish.
On the air live with Richard Sandler, who, of course, also has a leadership role at the Milken Institute Global Conference. And, of course, this year you held you chaired a number of events and moderated a number of important discussions, including the one on anti-Semitism. And certainly it looks like President Trump is ready to tackle that issue as well, especially as it relates to university campuses and all that. Give us your thoughts about how this year has played out on that front.
Well, so far it's been far more peaceful than last year. I hope it's because that the powers that be on these campuses realize that you cannot negotiate with people who want to be disruptive and has no interest in anything but being disruptive. So I have actually had the pleasure of meeting with the new chancellor at Berkeley and the new incoming chancellor at UCLA. who both sound like they'll be very strong in enforcing the university's rules. These rules are there for all students, from all backgrounds, all religions, all ethnicities. And as long as the rules are enforced and enforced fairly, and the people know they're going to be enforced, the people on campus, students on campus, should do what they go to school for, to actually learn, to become critical thinkers, and to be responsible members of society.
Certainly the intimidation of Jewish students at UCLA and other campuses provoked a tremendous amount of outrage, and then a synagogue was surrounded by militants in West Los Angeles this year, right? So some very concerning things have occurred. Have things turned around finally now as far as law enforcement is concerned and how these situations are handled?
Well, here in Los Angeles, we have a very good relationship with the mayor's office and with law enforcement, which is interested in enforcing the law. I was very, very happy to see the results of the district attorney race. I think we have a district attorney now who's willing to enforce the law. But everybody should be protected. We all have a right to feel safe in our neighborhoods. Students have a right to feel safe on campuses. So as I said in other areas, Frank, I'm hopeful that we will see a much better year this year than we've seen in the last year or two.
And you work with one of the great philanthropists of the world who organizes the Milken Institute Global Conference. That, of course, is the one and only Michael Milken, and you wrote an excellent book about your experience working with him over many, many years as his attorney. The book is Witness to a Prosecution, the Myth of Michael Milken. Maybe you can tell us, first of all, about Mr. Milken's amazing philanthropy this year with United Hatzalah and some of the other groups, and Union Rescue Mission and some of the other groups he supports here in the Los Angeles area.
Yeah, look, it has been a privilege and an honor for me to call Mike a friend for a lot of my life, as I talk about in the book, and to work with him and to see he and his brother Lowell commitment to the community, to philanthropy, and philanthropy that makes a difference and makes people's lives better. So they're not doing anything this year that they haven't done in past years, which is focusing on their attention where they think societal needs are and where they can be effective in trying to make a difference in people's lives. And this year, like prior years, they have been very generous in addressing the problems that we have had, especially those that relate to campuses, that relate to Israel, as well as the areas of health and education.
Of course, the Milken Conference will be coming up again in the new year. Any preview, what will be some of the big names and some of the big topics of discussion, if you're able to share with that us with on that at this time?
Well, that's being put together right now, so we're finalizing a lot of the panels and a lot of the speakers. I think year in and year out, we have been able to bring leaders in country, leaders in politics, leaders in medicine, leaders in business and industry, and leaders in philanthropy, as we talk about some of these problems you and I are talking about right now, Frank. So I'm sure that the conference, which does not start until next May, will meet everybody's expectations, as it always has.
Wonderful. And something that was previewed during the last conference was one of the crowning achievements, I think, of the Milken Institute, which will be the Center for the American Dream, right? Is that coming together in Washington?
We're very excited about that, Frank. It's taken over a decade to get there, but that center will be opening in 2025. It's based upon 4 pillars: education, healthcare, entrepreneurship, and access to capital. It will be describing successes, why people believe in the American dream, why people want to come to this country, what the barriers are and how we address those barriers. But it really is going to be a center of hope and positivity, which I think we could use right now. But we're very, very excited about opening the center. We're opening it right across from the Treasury Department, almost across the street from the White House in Washington, D.C. And I believe it will be a real beacon of hope for the people that are able to visit it, and we're looking forward to that.
That is amazing. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Hope to join you there for that epic moment when that fabulous place opens. So thank you for sharing that with us. And certainly Michael Milken, You wrote about it, about him and your experience with him and the book Witness to a Prosecution. What an epic story. Maybe you want to briefly tell us about the book and your experience with Michael Milken.
I would love to do that, and I thank you, Frank. Look, Michael Milken was probably one of the, well, for this generation, was the first real disruptor in business and in finance. He revolutionized finance. He made capital available to people and companies that had never had capital available before. In being a disruptor, he became somewhat unpopular. Unfortunately, got in the crosshairs of the Justice Department. And one of the things I talk about in the book, how somebody like Michael Milken, who has devoted his life to making the world a better place, who has created tremendous value for so many people, can get caught up in a criminal prosecution, be treated very unfairly. I go through what the process does. I put it in the words of the prosecutor and the judge, as well as my own words. So it is very factual. And I think it's a cautionary tale to anyone to understand how the system really works. It still works that way today, as it always has worked. But it's also a story of resilience, of how Michael Milken, who was on the top of the world, who got treated the way he got treated, has gone on to be productive in his life in spite of what happened to him, and has done it, quite frankly, without bitterness and with an attitude to just keeping the world better.
An amazing story, and I've recommended the book very highly to a number of people who have it in their hands as we speak here. Richard Sandler, prominent attorney here in Los Angeles and leader in the Jewish community here, also executive vice president of the Milken Family Foundation. The book, once again, is Witness to a Prosecution, The Myth of Michael Milken. Richard Sandler, thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon. We wish you and everyone there a happy Thanksgiving and hope to speak with you again very soon.
And I wish you and all the listeners, Frank, a very happy and peaceful and safe Thanksgiving. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we go out to the freeways now on this rainy evening here on 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues here on 790 KABC. Digital gold, Bitcoin taking a hit this week, with Bitcoin slipping from close to 100,000 back down to around 92,000 here at the moment. Gold, meanwhile, has been on the rise in the face of all this today. Both gold and silver have seen big gains this year. Let's talk about gold and silver now with one of our great sponsors, Joe Morgan at United Gold Group, based right here in Southern California. Joe, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Hey, Frank. Happy to be back here. You know, since I was last on here with you, so much has happened. I mean, really, there's just been so many eyes on gold recently, like you were saying, for the year to date. It's just way up. But a lot of people have been hearing about gold, and a lot of people out there, I'm finding, are really interested in gold now more than ever. And, well, that's really because, Frank, people are concerned with stock market risk. People are concerned with war in Russia. People are concerned with holding their money on nothing but computer servers at the bank. And people are starting to get wise, and they're concerned about who actually owns their securities they have, like their stocks and bonds, and who can actually use them as collateral in a default. And last time I was here, you know, we spoke briefly about UCC Title VIII, which is that new legal construct they put in place where if anything happens, there's a collapse in our financial system of any kind, they can legally take your cash, your stocks, and your bonds as collateral to cover their own debt. So that's why you see so many people looking at gold now more than ever.
Of course, with so many things happening around the world, geopolitical nervousness, pretty much everywhere you look, gold has also been considered a safe haven in those times, and also as an inflation hedge. Curiously, we've been told inflation is coming down. The dollar has actually been firming against other currencies, and despite all that, we saw gold get close to, $2,800 an ounce just in the last month or so. Any thoughts about where gold and silver, for that matter, go from here?
Yeah, you know, as more people are kind of realizing and waking up that you know, 80% of all the U.S. dollars in circulation right now have been printed in the last 4 years. So, folks, right now especially, if you're one of those people that they've been asking about gold or you're thinking about gold, you know, a lot of people out there think it's complicated. They know they want gold, but they have no idea how it works, or it seems kind of hard to understand, I should say. Well, you know, here at United Gold Group, we sort of take the mystery out of investing in gold. It's gold buying made simple. So, if you're one of those folks that's been sitting on the sideline seeing gold, like you're saying, climb to its all-time high while we keep printing more and more dollars, right? And you're thinking to yourself, well, how do I eat with gold? How do I spend gold? How do I get money from my gold? And it's all too complicated. We make gold buying easy, right? We can actually help people if you're in a retirement account. We can set you up in a private insured vault for physical gold. We can turn your gold back into cash for you. And that's one of the services we offer here. So, last time I spoke to so many people because they realize right now we have a lot of existential risk out there. And that's why gold keeps climbing. We're on the brink of a full-blown war with Russia. And when you keep your money in the market and the banking system, especially now, you have a lot of third-party risk, folks. It's what experts call counterparty risk, right? We have war. We have uncertainty in our financial system. And a lot of the top fund managers right now are saying you need real diversification. And we all know gold's a good investment. That's why so many people are flocking to it, right? We all know central banks hold gold. Top fund managers like Ray Dalio or Marko Kolanovic hold gold. But what I've really found is, people just don't know how to do it. And that's where someone like myself comes in. That's where here at United Gold Group, right? That's where we come in. We make gold buying easy, right? We make selling it easy, whether you're using any type of retirement account, like a 401k, an IRA, a 457, a TSP. We make the process very easy. We handle all the paperwork. We help you start to finish, and it's tax and penalty free, folks. So we can actually help you secure any type of retirement account. You can hold the gold at home, or we can set you up in an insured vault. Real gold, just like the top funds are doing right now. And that's really why you see it keep climbing up, because according to Bloomberg, central banks, not just in this country, but all over the world, are buying more physical gold than they've ever bought in history. So I think at this point, we all understand that gold is the greatest store of value and the safe haven asset, as you said, you could be in. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But right now, you should be aware that, according to Ray Dalio, Stanley Druckenmiller, Marko Kolanovic, Larry McDonald, top fund managers are saying protect yourself with gold. The market's at an all-time high. Do we really think it's going to stay there forever when you have senior NATO officials saying to prepare for wartime scenarios?
Yeah. We're on the air live with Joe Morgan at United Gold Group. And silver has also seen an eye-popping gain this year, Joe, just hovering now below $31 an ounce. It's well below its all-time high, which was hit many years ago, got close to, $50 an ounce or thereabouts. What are your thoughts on silver and all this?
Yeah, right now, industrially speaking alone, silver is an industrial metal. I read a statistic that in the solar industry alone, there's a $6 billion deficit on silver that's needed that we haven't even mined yet. So again, if you're one of those people on the sidelines and thinking, you know what, all the banks where I keep my money that is just on computer servers are buying gold and silver, and I want to, right? Like you said, we're the family-owned company right here in Southern California. We can help you get started. We make gold buying easy or silver buying easy. So, if you give us a call and you ask for me, I'll get back to you personally. My number is 1-800-753-8534. That's 1-800-753-8534. There are no bad questions, but really, call us now and move while you still can. The market's at an all-time high.
Joe, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your support of Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. That is Joe Morgan at United Gold Group, the website unitedgoldgroup.com. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang, and I'll be back with more at 4 tomorrow afternoon right here on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC.
O'Shea Jackson Jr. and TJ Jefferson bring their unique take on sports entertainment with no contest wrestling, with guests like Swerve Strickland.
Why do you use staples like sensu beans, man?
No, it was just something, the concept I came up with. It's an instrument used to punish. It was just finding those common items. If you see them, you automatically think back to me in that moment. So it's one of those things I wanted to just implement in my whole character, being the most dangerous man in AEW.
The No Contest Wrestling Podcast, part of the Rich Eisen Podcast Network, wherever you listen.